Guys, before I start NGIPS, I'll talk about FTD class. Okay. In FTD class, we have few topics left. Like we have like side-to-side VPN. Okay. And we have application filter. And after that, we have transparent firewall. And we have to see NGIPS. These are the four things that we need to see in your FTD. Okay. Yes, Vivek, it's a new batch only. Hold on. For the old students, I need to give some information. After that, I'll start the new batch. Okay. So these four topics, out of these four topics, NGIPS also I need to cover. Okay. So what I'm saying is today I'll be starting this NGIPS, and this along with the NGIPS on FTD also, I'll show you. What I'll do is, first of all, I'll complete NGIPS. Okay. After completing NGIPS on a dedicated NGIPS device, okay, I'll come back to FTD. And on FTD, I'll show you how do you work with NGIPS, and rest these three topics will be covered. So it's like for you guys, for old guys, this video will be continued. Means this class will be continued. So till next week, till today and next week, NGIPS plus FTD will get completed. Okay. So there is no break for the old guys. It's like the same thing we are going through. Anyway, so we had to cover NGIPS in a FTD also. So I'm covering NGIPS topic right now. That's how you can assume. Okay. And after NGIPS topic, I'll get into your previous three topics which are left, and I'll cover it. Is that fine, guys? Old guys? Okay. So for old guys, there is no break. It's like continued class.
For new batches, will there be any problem like if we start with NGIPS?
Okay, now for new students. See, this NGIPS is a new module itself. Okay. See, those who have attended the previous FTD class, those who have continued with the FTD class, see, they have some information about NGIPS, but they don't know what is NGIPS. Okay. So NGIPS is a separate device itself. So I'll be dealing with the new module itself. Okay. And it will be like a new module itself. I'm starting from today. It's not a old module. So first of all, I'll complete NGIPS. This NGIPS again, I'll show with FTD also. First of all, I'll show NGIPS individually with the NGIPS device, and I'll show the same NGIPS functionality with FTD also. Right. So for new guys, it's like you need to understand we are starting a new module. That's your NGIPS. Okay. See, these are the total modules that we complete in your IPv6, means in your version 6. So we'll go for ASA firewall, FTD, and FMC, and you have the NGIPS. You can see you have a separate module called as a NGIPS. So I'm covering a separate module itself. So it's a similar kind of, the module. So those who already know FTD, for them it's easier. And those who don't know completely, for them it will be a fresh class, and I'll be teaching from scratch. So no need to worry. Am I clear to new students?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Anyone else needs a recording permission? Please check. Okay. So today we are starting with NGIPS. We'll understand what is NGIPS. Okay. And now this NGIPS is basically a part of firepower. Okay. Now those who are new, they will come to know like from where did this firepower picture, firepower term come from. Like if you see the history, in a history we can see like this firepower term has come from the Cisco itself. Now how did it come? What was the earlier term? Those things I'm going to discuss. Okay. So little bit I'll tell you about the history of this NGIPS. Okay. See, terminology and branding. If I talk about the terminology and the branding, you can see this NGIPS was actually a part of source fire company. There was a company called as a source fire. See, before the source fire company also, there was another company who actually created your IPS device. Means the IPS functionality was basically created by some other vendor. Okay, here do you see something written as a snot? Okay, see, this snot was a first vendor who actually introduced a concept of IPS. Earlier, it was not called as a NGIPS. Listen, guys, properly what I'm saying. Earlier, it was not a NGIPS. Now we call it as a NGIPS because there are some reasons. See, very first thing, there was a IPS, and this IPS device, we basically called it as a intrusion prevention system. So this is intrusion prevention system. Okay. So this IPS was basically introduced by Snot. This was a Snot company. So this company basically introduced IPS device, and it was open source. It was open source. It means anyone can download, and they can. It was a software based actually. It was not a hardware. So it was an open source. So any could download and they could use it, right, like a VM device, virtual machine device. They could deploy on the virtual platforms like ESXi or VMware, right? They could deploy here, or they could deploy on any other virtual systems or on the cloud, right? Earlier there was no cloud type of concepts, right? So they were deploying on the virtual devices only. I mean, like virtual platforms, like we have NSX. Now NSX has come, but earlier there was a ESXi and VMwares only. Okay, so those software-based IPS was basically deployed on the virtual appliances, right? And the main purpose of IPS device was content filtering. Content filter. Okay, we used it for the content filter. Now, what is content filter, that we'll discuss. But before that, let's understand. Snot was open source, and it was introduced by, I mean, like Snot was a company, IPS was the product, and it was an open source. Now, later on, what happened? This is not, the entire engine, the entire company of the Snot products was basically acquired by a source fire company. There was a company called as a source fire. You can see here, there was a company called as a source fire. So they liked that Snot engine very well. So what they did, they acquired the, that Snot engine, the Snot product, whatever you say, it was acquired by, this IPS was a product of Snot, and Snot was again acquired by whom? Source fire, right? Now source fire, they introduced a new device, right, in which they used an engine of Snot. So basically they used a IPS engine. Now they started calling this particular product, which was acquired by source fire, and they introduced a new type of device itself by, they integrating the Snot engine. They created it called, they called it as a source fire 3D system. Now this time, who was a company? You can see the company was source fire, and which version description, if you see, the version was 5.3.0. Okay, so company source fire, product source fire 3D system with 5.3.0. This was the earlier, the terminology given. After that, what happened? This source fire company itself got acquired by Cisco. You can see the company Cisco. Now, what source fire created, whatever the changes they did, they created a new type of device, right? That product was, acquired by Cisco again. So Cisco, basically Cisco will do such thing. In our training itself, we have multiple devices. Like we have a net flow collector, we have WSA, ESA, we have a multiple devices that we can see that was acquired by a Cisco itself. Okay. So this is also one of the product which was acquired by a Cisco. It was not basically origin by the Cisco itself. It was basically acquired by Cisco. So SourceFire, when it got acquired by Cisco, then Cisco gave a new name. Now SourceFire 3D system is no more there in a picture, and they released a new version. They released 5.3.1 version, and they gave a new name as a Fireside system. Now we call it as a Fireside NGIPS. It's no more called as a SourceFire NGIPS. Now it's called as a SourceFire, or sorry, it's called as a Fireside NGI. Okay, system. Now after that, again Cisco introduced a new version that was 5.4. Still the company is Cisco. Now the copyright is completely Cisco, and they still the term they give as a Fireside. After that, what happened? They introduced a new version. That's your 6.x. Still company Cisco. Now they started calling it as a Firepower. Now this is the point from where we started calling Firepower. Earlier we were not calling it as a Firepower. Right now also in a market, if you see NGIPS with a 5.4 version, you will not call it as a Firepower. You will call it as a Fireside. If someone is using 5.3 version, 5.3.0 version, then we'll call it as a SourceFire. Someone using 5.3.1 will call it as a Fireside system. So these are the different terminologies given based on the different versions and the product and the company. Okay. So starting with the snot, from here if we start, we have four different terms. Snot, SourceFire 3D system, Fireside, right? Again Fireside, and then coming to the Firepower. So like this, we had a different terms. So there was lots of confusion going in the market. Right now, you guys are directly looking into these things, right? But earlier, just think about when these products were introduced, and the different products were there in the market. So clients were basically getting confused what to buy and what not to buy. So basically, there was different terms while understanding the different devices in a product, in the market. So this is nothing but it's just the changes that happened based on the versions, starting with this not till SourceFire, till Fireside to Firepower, and the versions that you can see. Now, which version should we learn? We should learn 6.x version. According to your examination, according to your CCIE Security version 6, version 6.2 is required. 6.2.x you can say is required. But I'm going to give you guys training on 6.3.x. This is my current version. Now this version 6.3, the reason behind starting the 6.3 version is like we had lots of bugs with 6.2 version. If you see, if you go and Google it with the bugs on the FTD or the Firepower devices, you will see till 6.2 they had lots of bugs with the 6.2 version, which they have fixed on 6.3 version. So right now, if we recommend anyone to use a current version, then that would be above 6.3, not below than 6.3. Okay. So I have taken the minimum version of 6.3. Now this image I can provide you with emulators like that you use, like EVNG, or if you want to use it with your VMware, even I can provide you the OVF file for that. But the best way of using is on the emulator, that's your EVNG, because you can create a different labs, right? And you don't have to install it every time. So it's a best way. Definitely. It means your Firepower product is basically a tight integration of the Snot engine. Okay. RAM, it consumes 8 GB. 8 GB RAM will be required for NGIPS, FTD, and FMC. Three devices if you want to run 24 GB. Each product, yes, yes. Any file you take either QCOW file or you take it as a OVF file, right? They will take 8 GB. See, this 8 GB I'm talking about a device when you deploy on any platform, either it is on the any emulators or it is on the uh, like VMware or it's a ESX9. Okay. See, the best thing is that you can do, you can use it on EV. I'll give you the EV images. Don't worry. Everything that you need for lab purpose, I'll be providing you. I'll give you even a remote lab access. Okay, but you have to fix your time slots and you can use it. See, I hope you guys are not getting confused, right? Like we have a few new guys here. I'm talking about NGIPS. I'm talking about EV. So I hope you guys are not getting confused.
No, Sushil.
Okay. Vikram, Vivek, Upasna. I hope you guys are not getting confused, right? Okay, fine. Thanks. So basically, you might have seen that in our lab, in our NH, we have ESXi server on which we do the lab, or we have the VMware, right, on which we do the lab, or we use EVNG. That's your emulator on which we emulate, like your GNS, we have EVNG. So the best way of doing the lab is right now with your firepower is use EVNG. You know why? If I deploy on ESXi, it means let's say how many students are there? Let's say right now 25, 26 students are there. They all needs to do a lab. It means on ESXi, how many virtual machines I have to create? Let's say in one day, for sure, you'll not be completing, right? You might need multiple times access to practice your labs. So if one guy, if I have one or two devices only, then in that case, what will happen? The next guy will reset all the configuration again he will be using. Again, same thing will keep going, right? So let's say if I am practicing and today, tomorrow you are connecting, you will reset the device. Now, whatever configuration I have done, that is gone, right? So in that case, that's not a good idea. What I would say, guys, please turn off your mic. Turn on your mic only when it is required. Okay. So it's not a good idea to use any lab on the ESXi now. Okay. Now almost all the labs can be simulated on your EVNG. Any lab, either it's your ASA or it's any product. Almost the 90% labs can be done on your EVNG. Only few device, in a rare cases we require, but these NGIPS, FTD, ASA, WSA, right? Almost 90% we are able to do it on your EVNG itself. And I'll be providing you all the images that you require for the EVNG. Not only for Cisco, also for Palo Alto, Checkpoint, right? F5, whatever image you need, I can provide. I have converted all the images. So I'll recommend you, like if you guys are planning to buy any servers also, buy a servers with a minimum 64 GB RAM, no matter what generation it is. I need a Xeon processor. In a Xeon processor also, if you have a dual Xeon processor in a motherboard with 64 GB RAM, max you can go with a 128 GB RAM. See, if you go with the second hand servers, you can easily find in a 50 to 70K in between. Now it depends on what RAM you are purchasing, 64 or 128. With 128 till 75K, you'll easily get in the market. Second. So in that case, if you guys are planning, like in a future also, let's say for CCIE Security lab perspective also, if you want to create your own lab, right? In that case, we have all those images and all those licenses that we require to simulate our lab. We do have all those, almost 90%. So I'll suggest you guys to learn EVE. I have also created my own video on EVNG, how to install, how to set up the lab and all. Apart from that, in daily classes, I'll be using EVNG. So you guys will be very much familiar with EVNG. Okay. And you need EVNG. Now, from where to download, or if you need a EVNG with everything set up, even that I can give you, that I have already created. It's of 45 GB. So those who can come physically over here, they can take. Those who are not able to come physically over here, they can, download EVNG from the website. And how to download, where to download, that I have already mentioned in my video. So I'll be sharing my video with you. Okay. Yes, all FTD, all the latest version supports with your EVNG. Okay. Even this lab I'll be doing on EVNG also. Okay. So don't worry. Krishna Kumar. So you guys will have all the videos recording, all the devices access and lab access, right? And a lab support as well. So this is what I can give now. Now, since institute has opened, so now all the lab access, everything has been resumed. So from today onwards, those who don't have a lab access, they can take. Okay. And how to take a lab access, on that I have created one video again. You guys can see that. And I'll give you an access to my Google Drive where I'll be sharing all these videos and the documents. Okay. And in these 2 weeks, we are going to complete this entire classes. So I hope all the basic queries are cleared to all the new guys. So let's continue with our class. So I was talking about the current version. So this is the current version that I'm going to use. That's your 6.3. Now, when I talk about the version, you need to think about like two devices over here. One is about the NGIPS. Another device would be FMC. See, we have two devices that we have to go through to do a complete lab of NGIPS. FMC is Firepower Management Center. It's a management center. Means it's a centralized manager. Now, if I want to get an access to NGIPS directly, I won't get an access. To get an access to NGIPS or to configure the NGIPS, I need a FMC. So through FMC, I'll get an access to NGIPS, right? So you should see how do you integrate the NGIPS with FMC. Guys, be very much clear. Don't confuse yourself. What I'm telling, NGIPS is your major device, which will be deployed for what? Content filtering. But to control your NGIPS, what device do you need? FMC. So in a firepower, here you can see a terminology as a firepower, right? Firepower system. So basically in a firepower, we have three products. Total three products are there in a firepower. These are the lists. Okay. When it was a part of source fire, right, with 5.3 version, then we used to call FMC as a data center, defense center, source fire defense center. And we used to call NGIPS as a source fire NGIPS. And we had a firewall that was a next generation firewall. We used to call it as a source fire next generation firewall. So these are the three products. Recently, what we are done with, or the previous class which was going, that was of next generation firewall. So don't get confused. What was a next generation firewall? I'm not discussing about that. You guys know what is firewall, right? All of you new guys, you know what is your ASA firewall, right? All the new guys?
Yes, Sushil.
Okay. How about others? All of you know, right? What is ASA firewall? Okay. The same way, we have a next generation firewall. That's your NG firewall. That's your firepower threat defense, we call it. Okay. So basically, I completed one of the firewall that was FTD. As simple it is. Don't complicate yourself. So basically, what I'm telling you right now, you have to understand NGIPS and FMC. Now, these were the terms given with the different versions with the different vendors. Now, when it was a part of Cisco, they started calling it as a fireside. So we started calling these three devices as a fireside defense center, or fireside NGIPS, or fireside next generation. Now again, it was with the new version, they started calling firepower management center, your FMC. This was your FMC. Okay. So we started calling your FMC not using a digital slate. So, okay. So we had basically three products: NGS, FMC, and FTD. These are the three products that we currently call under the firepower. So under the firepower, currently we have these three products. Same three products I'm showing you from beginning, based on the versions and based on the vendors. Right. This FMC was basically called earlier as a defense center. Right. Again, with the new version, new vendor, they called it as a defense fire site defense center. Again, after some time, with a new version, we started calling it as a fire site defense center or fire site management center. Right. And same product with the 6.x version, we started calling it as a firepower management center. Right. So you can see the changes over here. All NGIPS, NGIPS, NGIPS. Now we call it as a firepower NGIPS. So currently what you guys need to see is firepower management center, right, and NGIPS. Okay, and the previous guys has completed your NGFW. That's your next generation firewall, which is basically your FTD. Don't worry, you will come to know FTD, right? So the terminology wise, am I clear to everyone? What is FMC? What is NGIPS? I'm not expecting, did you understand what is NGIPS? I'm just expecting a terminology wise. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, Vijay.
Now we need to understand what is NGIPS and why do we need a NGIPS? And you can see here, earlier I used a term as a IPS only. I didn't use a NGIPS. So you need to understand what's basically a difference between IPS and NGIPS and what is the use of NGIPS and where it should be deployed in your network. Where is the place, actual place in a network where NGIPS should be used. Now, my question for you guys, where do you think like your firewall should be deployed in a network or your router should be deployed in a network or your switch should be deployed in a network? You guys know all these devices, right? So tell me guys, one by one, where firewall, router or the switch should be deployed in a network. Firewall, where should you deploy? Between LAN and WAN. What's basically a purpose of LAN and WAN? Means a firewall. What's the purpose of firewall?
After the router.
Okay. After the router. More. So we use it for packet filtering. We use it as a edge device. Somewhere, someone you are saying after the router, right? See, we have a different scenario. Okay. So we'll talk about this where exactly the same way your NGIPS, okay, comes into a picture. Where exactly the NGIPS should be deployed, right? Where exactly switch it comes into a picture where you have to connect your local area, right? There we use a switch for the LAN connection. Router we use to connect between our two different subnets. For a routing purpose, we use a router, not for a security purpose, right? We can additionally add a filtering mechanism on the router to work like a firewall, but that's not the inbuilt feature. But when I talk about the firewall, by nature it does the packet filter, right? By default, it is created to filter the packet itself, right? So all the devices has their own uses itself, and it has its own requirement. Now, wherever the firewall is required, I cannot deploy a router, right? But whatever your router can do, your firewall can do. Same, whatever the functionalities you have with the router, it can be done with the firewall, right? Because the router, your firewall can do a routing also. Firewall can do all those stuff what your router can do. But what your firewall can do cannot be done by your router. It's a different device. Firewall is a security device. It's a dedicated device used for the translation purpose, used for the packet filtering purpose, right? So these are their dedicated functionalities and they have their places in a network where to deploy, right? Yes, it depends on the requirement, like where exactly a router should be deployed. You might have seen, let me take you guys with the places where the router and the firewall and the switch comes into a network. A simple scenario I'll show you, and then again I'll come back to NGIPS. Basically, I want to tell you like where exactly NGIPS is deployed in a network. Okay. Now, most of the time, what do you see? You have the internet connection, ISP. This internet connection will be done, or this will be connected to where? Now, let's say at your home or at your office, you'll have one router, right? You'll have one router. This is your router, which will be directly connected with your ISP with one of the interface. This is your router connected with your ISP. At your home also, you have connected the internet in this way only, right? All of you, you have taken the ISP connection to the router, right? In our offices also, almost will have such type of scenario, right? Because your router will do a routing between your network and the ISP, right? After that, what we do? We take a switch. We can take a core switch or we can take a normal switch also, right? We take a switch and we connect. Now here you are connecting a device that can be firewall. Now here we are connecting firewall. Now this can be any firewall, your ASA firewall or your FTD firewall, any firewall it can be. This is your switch. So, most of the time, most of the places you will find this scenario also. Okay. Now, in this scenario, one thing will be there. Will not be using a static public IP. Here we'll have a dynamic public IP. Most of the cases. So dynamic public IP connected here, and whatever the subnet you have on the router, let's say, you might have seen your router having a management interface IP as a 192.168.0.1, right? So basically it's a subnet 0.0/20. So from /24, now whatever the IP address is, now whatever the devices you are connecting here or through the wireless method, now you have a router with the wireless itself, right? Now most of the routers we have with the wireless as well. So either you are connecting with Wi-Fi, right, or you are connecting with the wired connection, wireless or wired connection. You are going to get the IP address from this particular subnet, right, to get the internet access. Guys, are you understanding what I'm saying? At your home, either connecting with the Wi-Fi or connecting directly through the router with the LAN ports, or connecting via switch. You are going to get an IP address from this particular subnet only, right? All of you. Yes. Now, from this subnet, we assign one of the IP to the firewall interface, right? And we assume that firewall interface IP as a public. That's what we do in a real time. In my case also, I have done the same thing. Okay. But now now there are the different cases also. I'll show you a different use case. Now, instead of taking this router, what we do directly, we take a firewall. Here we directly take a firewall. Okay. And this firewall, one of the interface will be directly connected to your ISP. So we'll be installing a direct public IP. No need of any switch, no need of any, if you want, you can connect a switch, but no need of any L3 device. And behind this, we'll have a switch, right? Now, in a new network topology, your network layer switch and the distribution layer switch has combined together. We don't have a separate switches in a new network scenarios. In a real time, if you go, we have a single switch. So now here you will see directly a host connected over here. So whatever the host you'll have, so this will be connected here. Okay. So this is, the another scenario. So these are the two types of scenarios wherein you can understand where the router and the firewalls and the switches can be used, right? Now at the WAN interface, I can install directly a public IP. I can install a static public IP, and I can use this static public IP for different purposes. I can use it for remote access, VPN. I can use it for static, or I can use it for destination NAT or PAT, right? I can use a static public IP also for your source NAT or PAT, right? When the packet will go from the LAN to WAN, or the packet will come from WAN to private DMZ, right? So I can use this for multiple purposes. Now, in this scenario, remote access VPN destination NAT is not possible. But in this scenario, these both are possible, right? So it depends on what basis or for what purpose, and what is basically your requirement. So in that scenario based, the devices will be deployed, right? So guys, did you understand where exactly in a network your router, firewall, and the switches can be deployed, and what can be the use cases? So the same way, we'll understand about the NGIPS, where NGIPS would be deployed, what is the use. See, right now you guys already understand what is the use of router. You understand what is the use of firewall. So you can imagine where exactly it should be deployed in a network. But right now you don't know what's NGI. So if I explain also, that would not be worth right now. So first of all, we'll discuss about what is the use of NGIPS. Then we'll discuss about the deployment of NGIPS in a network. Now, use of switch, that's basically for the L2 communication. Use of a router is for L3 communication, and use of firewall is for the traffic filtering based on the private and the public network. So it's basically a barrier between the private and the public network wherein you can do a filtering. Now, by default, what type of filtering is done by the firewall? Now, depends on your firewall also. Now, let's just go with some firewall concept. Now, let's say if I talk about the ASA firewall, by default, your ASA firewall does the filtering at layer 3 and layer 4. It does the filtering. Does not have the next generation feature like filtering a layer 7 filtering, right? L7 filtering is not present on your ASA firewall. Now, ASA firewall is not a next generation firewall, does not have the next generation features like application filtering default feature, application filtering based on the services, application filtering based on the content filtering. All those, the next generation features are not present with your ASA firewall. Like application visibility control, that's basically called as a micro application filtering, right? All those next generation filterings are not present with your ASA. So what are the things possible with the ASA? Like if I want to go with routing, if I want to go with L2 firewall, that's basically called as a transparent firewall. Transparent firewall. If I want a firewall to use for the VPN purpose, if I want it to use for ACL deployment purpose, if I want to use for such way, if I want to use it for the translation purpose, for netting purpose, right? So these are the few major purposes for which your ASA firewall can be used. But if I say I want to use a firewall for this ASA firewall for URL filtering, no. If I want to use for app filtering, no. I want to use it for application visibility control, no. Right. If I want to use it for NGIPS, NGIPS filtering, no. If I want to use it for the AMP purpose, no. See, these all are the advanced filterings. These things are not present with your ASA firewall. These all are the advanced features. right? Lena, yes, Lena engine includes all the mentioned like routing VPN, correct? So we have basically two types of operating systems. Now I'll talk about that. What is Lena and what is this operating system? Okay, like it's not and Lena. What is exactly that? I'll discuss. So right now, if I talk about the iOS operating system, your ASA is having iOS operating system. That's basically a part of your system. Now, all these features included together, like all the ASA feature and all these extra features, right, included together makes, if I combine this, if I combine all these features, then it becomes FTD. That's your next generation firewall, right? But if I combine only this part, if I combine only this part with L3 and L4, including with, I can do all this part with NGIPS. This part will be a part of NGIPS. This is currently the functionality of your NGIPS. NGIPS. It's a part of NGIPS. Okay. And this is the part of ASA. Right. So currently what we are going to discuss is this part in NGIPS. These are the functionalities present on your NGIPS. These things are not possible with your NGIPS. I can do a routing, I can do a VPN, I can configure ACL. ACL will be configuring, but in a different sense, because ACL is used for filtering, right? I told you we can go for layer 3, layer 4 filtering. So basically, the behind the scene, there is ACL only in a picture, as we call it as a policy in a new term, but that policy is nothing but it's a ACL only deployed behind. Okay, will not be able to do a translation, right? So we have some limitations. Now, this particular part, when it comes in a firepower, right? Understand this part when it comes in a firepower. This part when it comes in a firepower, we call it as a Lena functionality. It's a part of Lena operating system. We call it as a Lena. And here we call this NGIPS is a part of SNOT. Okay, NGIPS is a part of SNOT, and this is a part of Lena. When you talk about ASA, ASA is having a separate operating system. ASA is not called as a Lena. ASA will be called as a iOS operating system. But the same ASA functionality when it comes with the firepower device, they are basically called it as a Lena. So when a Lena and SNOT gets combined, you get a product called FTD, right? When you know, like when your Lena plus SNOT gets combined, then you get a single product called as a FTD. That's your next generation firewall, right? Next generation firewall. Now this is what a Lena plus SNOT is. But when I discuss only about the SNOT, it's a, to understand what we are learning in this NGIPS module, we are learning about SNOT. We are not learning about Lena. Am I clear, guys? So we'll see NGIPS used for IPS functionality, right? We'll see, we'll use it for the AMP. We can use it for L3 layer 4 filtering. See, when I talk about the previous SNOT engine or previous IPS device, this IPS device was not having all this functionality. Like it was not having URL filtering, it was not having application visibility control. It was having application control, but not the application visibility control. It was not having AMP functionality. It was not having by default layer 3, layer 4 filtering mechanism. In a different way, we could filter the layer 3 and layer 4, but not in a way that NGIPS does. So different things were lagging with your previous IPS device, right? Which they have overcome in a NGIPS. So basically, next generation firewall has multiple features in a single device. I can use it for the URL filtering also. I can use it for the application filtering also. I can use it for the application visibility control also. What is application visibility control? What is application visibility control? Now, micro features. Now, what are those micro features? For example,
Like in one application, we are calling another
multiple other
application.
applications, sub applications. Correct. Like you are accessing Facebook. When you log in into a Facebook, you see multiple other applications also you get, right? You are getting like on a Facebook, you are getting sports also. You are getting video chat, downloading, audio chat, post, images, comment, right? So see how many micro applications are there, right? Now by using a Facebook, if someone is doing a video call, now let's say in my organization, I have hundreds of users. One user using just a Facebook might consume like 1 Mbps of the bandwidth, right? Now think 100 Mbps would be consumed just by accessing of the page itself, right? In that also, if someone does a video call, video is equal to voice plus image, right? That will consume more bandwidth, right? If someone is downloading some file, then what will happen? So basically, the use of AVC, application visibility control, is to control on those sub applications that I don't want to give an access to any other base application. My base application is Facebook. On top of that, I have other multiple applications, right? That feature is only present with your next generation device. It's not present with your non next generation device. Like I don't call ASA as a next generation device because you don't have such type of feature. On ASA, hardly what I can do. If you will tell me to do a URL filtering, I can hardly block www.facebook.com. I can block this website. But if you will tell me to block the sub applications present on the Facebook, that's not possible because I don't have the AVC feature. Now, on ASA, you can block for HTTP, not for the HTTPS. Again, that is the problem. So do you think only the HTTP related, the websites are there? No, HTTPS is there, which encrypts the traffic. Again, you have to do a decryption. So again, coming with the decryption. Now, new thing, your FTD is also capable for doing a decryption. Right, decryption comes into a picture. There are multiple features. I'll show you. We have a decryption feature plus identity based, user based. Right, user based access. That's like a local identity creating on a device. Right. These things are also present on the Lena operating system. Right. Decryption present on your NGIPS also. Right. Basically, decryption is a part of the. It's not the part of. Okay. It's a combined. Okay. So decryption will also come under the next generation feature. So we can see even the content filtering can be done with the decryption. We can filter all the contents. So all these features, you know, when gets combined together, it is basically called as a FTD. So FTD is a part of Lena plus SNOT. Now basically we are going to discuss about only about the SNOT, which is now called as a NGIPS, because what makes the IPS as a NGIPS is these features. All these features combined together makes it as a NGIPS. So if anyone is asking you what is NGIPS, you should tell all these reasons. I can go for URL filtering. I can go for application filtering. I can go for application visibility control. I can do a content filtering. I can do advanced malware protection. I can even filter the packets based on layer 3, layer 4. Even I can filter, I can do a decryption. So all these features combined together, we call it as a or the NGI, or you can say NGIPS instead of saying SNOT. So what is the role of SNOT? If they ask you, you can tell. SNOT is basically a real engine, okay, of the IPS, of the content filtering, which is integrated with your firepower device, which has been modified now, right? You can say like SNOT has been modified now, and we call it as a NGI. But base remains, right. It remains with the SNOT engine only. Now SNOT has been modified. See, we had non-smartphone and we have a smartphone, but phone is phone only, right? That's what I'm saying, right? Phone, you can say it's a SNOT. Now it has become a smartphone. That's your NGI. Means added a feature in the previous engine. That's basically your NGI. Okay. I cannot use NGIPS for VPN purpose. I cannot use it for the translation purpose. I cannot use it for L2 purpose. I cannot use it for routing feature. These things are not possible. These are the part of Lena. So FTD, when we have worked, we have basically till now we have worked with Lena. Old guys. Till now, whatever we have worked was a part of Lena. Now we are working with SNOT. And this combined, I'll show you at the last how Lena and SNOT will work together, that you will understand after completing the SNOT part. See, this evening class will have from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Okay. So you guys understood what's a use of NGIPS and what's a use of FTD. See guys, earlier when different devices were there in a network, like we had a separate FTD, we had a separate FTD, we had a separate NGIPS, we had a separate ASA, right? So how did we manage in our network all these devices? Or what should be bought and what should not be bought? That we need to think about. Now say, if anyone has a FTD, right? If anyone has bought a FTD, do you guys think that I need to buy NGIPS or ASA? Do you think I need to buy these two other devices? What do you say, guys?
No.
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. So if I have a FTD, means I don't need to buy these devices. Now, if I have a ASA, means ASA does not have those functionalities what NGIPS have. So if I have a ASA, do you think I need to purchase FTD? Now I hope you guys are able to relate and understand. If I have a ASA, then I'll purchase NGI.
NGIPS only.
Correct. Right. If I have an NGIPS only in a network, let's say if I have an NGIPS plus a router also, this is also fine. Right. So all the next generation features, apart from the routing, ACL can be done with your router itself. Right. Translation also can be done with the router. ACL can be deployed. Right. Layer 3, layer 4 informations can be filtered with the router. Rest all the things will be taken care by NGI. So if someone is already having a router and don't want a firewall but only wants a don't want to do a routing but needs all these filterings, they have a requirement of all these filterings, will recommend them to go with NGI. Purchase only NGI. Cost wise it will be less, right? Now if someone has already a ASA and they want a next generation filtering, they will also buy a NGI. No need to buy FTD. Compared to NGIPS, if I buy a FTD, definitely the cost will go high. Why? Because it is having two different operating systems as a single operating system in a single chassis box, right? So less services, less cost, right? Licenses also less required, right? So if I have FTD, means I'll not go for this. In today's date, if you ask me like what should I go for, then I'll not recommend you guys to go with these two things. I'll tell you directly to go with FTD. Now in that also we have a use case. Now it depends. For what purpose you are purchasing a FTD? Now depends. Now on a single FTD, if I use all these features, whatever I have, Lena plus Snot, if I use all these features on a single device, do you think that's a good idea? Again, that's not a good idea. What will happen? Again, it will utilize the resources like CPU, RAM, right? And a single device responsible for the multiple type of features, performance effect will be there, right? So different perspective you have to see in a real time. See, in your local lab, while practicing, you do anything that does not matter, right? But when you talk about the real scenario with the real environment, right, at that time you have to think multiple things. Now, how can I decrease the load of FTD? For URL filtering, I can take a separate WSA device, right? So entire web filtering will be done by your WSA. Now your organization is somewhere related to URL, wherein most of the traffics are related to web. So you need a dedicated web filtering. So those are responsibilities of the web filtering. You can put it on WSA, right? A separate device. Now you are also concerned about the application filtering. You use this application filtering feature of the firewall or the part of NGIPS, right? When it is FTD, then you have all these combined features, right? So on a FTD, let's say already I'm using FTD for routing purpose, already using for VPN purpose, already using for ACL translation purpose. Now these are the things like which by default come, excluding the transparent. If it is, it can be in any one mode, right? Either in a routing mode or in the transparent. So if it is in a routing mode, then I have to use all these features. It's like a common thing that we use a firewall for, right? Apart from that, if I'm doing application filtering, AVC, right? If I'm using the AMP feature also, decryption also, user also, just think about like how many things you are using. So what Cisco has done for the real-time perspective, like for the web filtering, you can take a separate device for as a WSA. For identity, you can take a ICE, right? For firewalling, you can take the FTD. For next generation filtering, for content filtering, you can take NGIPS, right? So in this way, we have a different devices, differentiated with the different types of responsibilities. So it will decrease the resources used on the single device, right? Impact of the resources used on a single device that will be reduced. Now, if you have a small organization wherein you are not capable for, afford, you cannot afford like these many devices, then what you will do? You will buy a single FTD and you will enable all these features, right? Because you don't have much traffic flow. You don't have much pressure on a single device, right? Okay, what's the question? First of all, Sid, I think for a small and a medium, we should go with FTD directly or specific data center. See, that's what I'm telling you, Sid. If I told you, like, if I have a small organization means he cannot afford all these devices. So definitely he'll go with the single device, right? Now, if it comes with, let's say a big data center, right? A large type of, a large data centers. So there, let's say for ISP, where we have, millions of users, where we have to control the traffic. So it's not possible with a single device. So multiple devices will be there. Or if they are using a firewall, they might be using for the few features only, not for all the features, right? Now, can NGIPS do the same thing as a ICE? No. ICE is a separate thing. It's basically an identity service engine used for the identification purpose, for network management, and for the device management purpose, right? how to control the access in a network, either for the user or for the devices in a network. For that purpose, we use ICE. NGIPS, we use it for the content filtering. Whatever the data is passing through your network, that data, NGIPS will make sure that that data is not having any malicious, right? In a data, we have the content, right? So let's say if I have written a letter, let's say if I have written a letter, in a letter I have written some words over here. So this word is my content. This content might be a kind of a script to bypass your device also, right? It can be a script to perform a attack in your network also, right? It can be anything. So how your NGIPS works, what is the major functionality of NGIPS? Slowly we are coming to that. Okay, we are going to discuss. We'll understand about the signatures, we'll understand what is signature, what is attack, what is content filtering, right? All those things we are going to do. So am I clear with this, Anthony? Yes, yes, a dedicated device for email filtering. Whatever your emails are going, right? All those filterings will be done by your email security. Okay. Any questions so far, whatever we have covered?
No, Sushil.
So guys, we'll continue tomorrow with the same class. Okay. Today is the first class of NGIPS.
And Sushil, can you add me in the Google for this?
Yeah, one more thing before you guys leave the class. This is my WhatsApp number. You guys need to send me a text message, your name, what you have enrolled for, and you need to request me to add in a evening group. So I'll be adding you guys in an evening group. After that, I'll give you guys access to Google Drive, everything. Yes, after that, I'll give the images. Okay, one more thing, guys. All of you previous guys, see, I'm going to delete this. See, already it is like 99 GB. I have to delete most of it. VPN, I'll be deleting. So those who have not downloaded VPN, previous guys, please download it. Anyways, in this batch, again, VPN will start. That will be another module. I mean, like once the cycle will complete, again, it will come to the VPN. But as of now, no, I'm not going to take VPN.
सर ये स्विच जो है रिबूट हो जा रही सर
For that, we have a separate switch image. Again, I face the same issue. Sometimes it is okay, or sometimes it's not working. So I have a separate switch image. Okay, I'll share that. I'll tell you it's a different configuration, different way to do. I'll give an access. Krishna Kumar, share me your email ID right now. For NGIPS class, tomorrow I'll take your, the email IDs and I'll give you access. Right now, you guys need to text me.